Welcome back to a new video. Today we are going to be making a map for a cozy fantasy novel that I am working on right now, and decided that I really need a map before I can continue the story. The story is called A Questing of Books, and it was based on a short story I wrote for an anthology, which I will tell you more about very shortly. So let's get started on the map. I am starting off with some drafter's vellum. I have had this roll, I think it's 20 yards, 24 yards, something like that, I've had it since Aaron Brothers was a store, which, if you know anything about stores in the US, as far art stores specifically, it's been a while since Aaron Brothers was around. It was one of my favorite art stores when I was younger. Anyways, I like vellum. It works really nicely. It's very smooth, sort of see-through. If you need to ever trace it on top of something, it works really nicely for drawing maps. I can use pencils, inks, whatever on it, and it'll hold up very, very well. I can also fold it down really small to fit in my notebooks that I use. Now we get to my favorite part, which is the rice. I love making maps with this rice method, and don't worry, this rice is not for eating, it's just for crafting. I have other rice for eating. Good to keep those two separate. The rice method that I use is literally just pouring rice out onto paper and then smushing it around until it looks cool and sort of landmass-y. And then I take a pencil and trace around it. And once you pull away all the rice, you have this really cool wibbly-wobbly coastline. And I think it looks absolutely wonderful. If I need a country with a more specific set of geographical features, then I can do it that way, but I have found that for something where I don't really know the shape of things, I don't really know all the details of how the land works yet, then using the rice method is pretty ideal because it gives me all these features without having to do a lot of work. And when you're in the middle of 17 projects at a time, not doing a lot of work is very important. So the story that I'm working on started as a short story. It's called The Librarian of Greywall Academy, and it started as a story for an anthology that I wrote. I didn't write the anthology. I wrote the short story for the anthology with a bunch of other really cool authors from the fantasy group, reader group, Indie Fantasy Addicts over on Facebook. I will link them in the description below. They're a bunch of really awesome people whose entire goal is to basically read really awesome indie fantasy books, and every year they do a summer reading challenge, and with that challenge they put out an anthology. And this year I had the distinct honor of having my short story in that anthology. It follows Anahita Morrow, who is a librarian, specifically head librarian for Greywall Academy for the magically inclined. She has to deal with students who have no idea how to handle books, and specifically the bane of her existence, Laslo Norgrivaldi. He is a chef on sabbatical from his restaurant who is at the academy to learn specifically magic for growing ingredients to help his restaurant. And he cannot keep a book tidy to save his life. Oh, actually, in this book, or in this short story, it is very important that he can't keep a book tidy to save his life. I mean, literally. Anyways, another student has accidentally released a creature from one of the more dangerous books, and Mistress Morrow and Master Norgrivaldi have to contain this creature by whatever means necessary, even if those means are decidedly unconventional and pastry-shaped. This is a cozy fantasy, very low stakes, very fun, lighthearted, grumpy sunshine, with Anahita being the grump and Laslo being the sunshine. And it was such a fun story to write, and I fell in love with these characters that I decided that I would turn it into a full novel. Well, the characters, at least. The novel itself is called A Questing of Books, and it takes place approximately 2.5 years after the events of the short story, where Anahita goes on a quest to pick up a book that was left to the Academy by a wealthy patron, and this book is incredibly dangerous and needs the head librarian to go and fetch it. However, on the way, she runs into the former bane of her existence, Laslo Norgrivaldi, who is taking the same caravan as he is now on a journey to go write a cookbook. Shenanigans ensue. This story is going to be fun to write. I am already enjoying it quite a bit, even if I have gotten a bit stuck not knowing where things are. Hence the drawing of the map. Very important stuff. But it's fun. The characters are lighthearted, things are a bit snippy, I can really lean into the tropes, the grumpy sunshine trope, the cozy fantasy, lots of food descriptions and good weather, or bad weather as the case may be, but just very warm, cozy feelings. I don't really know how else to describe it. It's going to be warm and cozy, and I'm having fun with it. This book is a standalone. It does not connect to any other world that I have written. I may do more in this world if I fall in love with it, as I did with the characters of the short story, but for now it's meant to be a standalone story in a fun little world where magic runs free. Right there in those mountains, that is where Greywall Academy is located. And it is located within a city. Do I know the name of the city? Not yet. And that is one of the things about drawing fantasy maps that I really should be better at, and that is naming the countries and the places. For this particular map, I have exactly 2 names written down: Greywall Academy and Deadmaw Forest, and that is because they are mentioned in the short story, and so I know they have to be on the map somewhere. I do give the continent a name, Kirivash. I thought it would be fun. I don't know why. The letters just kind of popped into my head, which is how I name 90% of my fantasy lands. But I haven't actually gotten around to naming all of the countries, or the cities, or the rivers, or the lakes, or anything. Those will appear as I go through the story. I will write them on the map later, and then when it comes time for publication, I will take this map and I will do a digital copy, very nice, very detailed, maybe a little bit of color, maybe not. We'll see how fancy I decide to get, and I will add in all of the proper names for everything at that point. For now, this is just a reference map to go into my little notebook that I keep for all of my various stories. It's a fairly quick process drawing these maps. You can get as detailed as you like. As you can see, I do enough detail to get general sense of forest versus plains versus mountains versus the sea and whatnot, but I don't do much more detail than that. If I were doing this for display, I would add color, I would add shading, I would add all of the things that look really, really cool on a fantasy map, but for now, just having a fun little reference for my cozy fantasy story is all I'm looking for. Do you like making maps? Or would you prefer just to send your characters off into the unknown? I have done that. It's also quite fun. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I shall see you next time.